Hi everybody, today's video comes from my kitchen where I'm going to be baking cakes, and whilst I was getting my ingredients together I looked at the dates on the eggs, and if you buy eggs or boxes or tins from the shops that are selling English goods, you very often find different dates on them. So on these eggs it says display until, and there's a date, and BB, and there's a date. I wonder if you know what all those dates mean. So I'm going to carry on with baking, but I'm going to pop over to the classroom to see the information about the difference between best before dates, display until dates, and eat before. See you later. Yes, today's class was all about food and the labels that you will find on a lot of the food that you buy in the English shops. So I wonder if you know the difference between the labels and what it all means. Let's have a look. Well, first of all, when you're looking at buying your food, you're thinking about, what do I know about when to eat it and how to store it safely? And that's why we have labels on a lot of our food, because food labels provide us with information. Now, the food dates that we're given are often divided by two very important labels. One is a use by date. You can see that on your screen. The use by date is indicated with a red box because that's to remind you that the use by date is a warning to eat your food. And the best before date that on your screen is in a blue box, just to say you need to look out for this information. So, food dates, when food should be eaten by. So check the labels on the food that you buy, whether that's tins or packets, and make sure you look at use by and best before dates. And yes, you showed in class that you do this already, so I'm really impressed with your food safety, but let's have a quick look at it. The use by date gives you the day and the month. And after this date, the food is not safe to eat. That's really important. The use by date, don't eat the food after this date. The best before date, again, you're given a day and a month, but this label is slightly different because it means you can eat the food after this date. However, it will probably not look or taste as good, and I'll let you into a little secret. I don't eat the food after the best before date because I bought the food to eat and I want to eat it when it's at its best. So for me, I don't eat the food after the best before date on the label, but you can choose to do so and check that it smells good and tastes well enough to eat. So well done in class for getting all the answers correct for the use by and eat before. And we're now going to have a look at storing food, because we also looked at labels that show how to store food. And I asked you to think about, what food would you store in a cupboard? What food would you store in a fridge? And which food would you store in a freezer? And you also got that correct. So we're going to have a look at some of the questions that we talked about. Where would you store the following food? What's this? Yes, it's bacon. Where would you store it? Correct, in the fridge. And what's this? Eggs. Where would you store the eggs? Yes, I would store my eggs in the fridge. What are these? Now that's a bag of frozen peas. So I've given you the answer with the word frozen. I'd store that in the freezer. Where would I store my bread? Well, one answer you might give is the cupboard, because your cupboard is a safe and dry place to store bread, and equally you might store your bread in a bread bin. However, when I lived in Germany, it was very hot, and when I bought bread, it didn't last very long, so I needed somewhere else to store my bread. Where do you think I put my bread then? Not in the cupboard. Yes, I put it in the fridge because it helped to keep the bread a little longer. And do you know, for the next answer, I don't actually do this, but I know a lot of people who do, who buy a quantity of bread and decide that they would like to use it later. So what they do is they freeze it, and so they would put bread in the freezer. So sometimes there's more than one answer to where would you store the food. However, it's really important that if there are instructions on the packet or the tins of food that you buy, then you follow those instructions and make sure that when you use them, if it tells you in the instructions to use it immediately when you've opened it, make sure that you don't put that back in the cupboard. I think that's what we always refer to as common sense, but sometimes we do need to be reminded to read the instructions. And what we're going to do next is have a look at some work in lockdown, because as well as talking about food and what we've been doing during lockdown and looking at food safety labels, we also talked about the work that other people in our households were doing. So let's just pop over to the next part of the classroom to find out about that. Hi everyone, so we had a great class today talking about what it was like for each one of us in lockdown. So now we're going to head over to the office to see some of the work that some of the children have been doing during this lockdown. Yes, whilst we're on our online classrooms, our children are also on their online classrooms. So thank you to Shini for sharing some of that information. See those photographs in a moment. Excellent work. So that's a special thank you to Koshin, who's in year 5 and is Shini's eldest son, and Kosha, who's only in year 2 and he's Shini's youngest son, because they have provided the work for the showcase at the end of this video. Well done, boys. Let's have a look at your work. And that's all for now, until you show us the work that you've been doing. And well done, everybody, all of you from class and your children too. Bye now.